Just stop caring about my wife. Is that the best thing to do? Just stop caring? Well, here on the C Note Show today, Cynthia and I are going to speak about that. And if you haven't seen Cynthia and I before, welcome. We have about 50,000 hours combined in this field of psychology, relationships, and how to build intimacy and connection and closeness, not only within your own self, within your own heart, and within your own soul and direction in the world as a man, but in your relationship with your wife or with the next woman in your life. And often men come to this spot. Should I stop caring about my wife? So again, on the C Note Show here, often I see men and the guys that are here live. We want to lead our life when they ask themselves or me. We want to provide safety and inspiration and sexual leadership or in our one-on-one coaching problems. The first scenario, so just stop caring about my wife. She really just wants you to quote step up. And she doesn't know how to say that, or she doesn't know what she wants, or she's disconnected from being able to communicate that with you, whether overtly or otherwise. Maybe she's angry, maybe she's collapsing, maybe she says that you should just know, or she expects you to kind of read her mind, the ever-moving goalposts. So that's one scenario, is that she wants you to step up. The other scenario we often see is that right now, she really doesn't want anything to do with you. And that's a spot that many men are in, at least right now, maybe in this moment or today or this month or during a phase of separation, potentially. Maybe she really doesn't want anything to do with you right now. So it's very different when she's just aching for you to step up, quote unquote. And what does that mean? And that's very different than she really just doesn't want anything to do with you right now. And I found this article written by Steve Horstman. It's on the Good Guys to Great Men website, entitled "Why Caring Less Attracts Your Wife Towards You." And I grabbed up the punchline here, basically. And Horstman writes, husbands in this situation, what I've highlighted here, that she really wants you to step up. That's what he describes in the article. When she's wanting you to step up, he says, husbands in that situation tend to have three important things in common. And I find this is consistent with every man that I work with, right? But especially if she's poking and prodding and nagging and engaging with you, maybe if it's an angry or blaming you, if she's still engaging with you, he says, number one, you as a man feel a constant jabbing energy of disrespect and disappointment from her. Number two, you feel a deep sense of inadequacy, anger, and hopelessness. And number three, you actually have no issues with her general requirements. So you're fine, to take out the trash. You're fine to whatever she's requesting. So it's really not, you don't have a problem with the general issues. It's this constant jabbing of disrespect, disappointment. She's always unhappy with you. It seems as though you can't ever do anything right. So you feel inadequate and angry about that and hopeless. So what's wrong here? You can claim your own values and expectations for how you will think, speak, and act independently from expectations of others, including your wife. Just spoke with a man about this literally this morning, claiming what you want and how you want to think and speak and act. That you have to decide and understand for yourself, regardless of anything. And sometimes she's not going to like that. Sometimes she's not going to agree with your values. Sometimes you're going to be not on the same page as far as expectations. But is it important to you? Have you decided? Have you done this introspection to know what's important to you, how you think, speak, and act? Or are you just on autopilot? Or are you just trying to appease her, right? Which is never going to work. So finally, what's wrong is that you have chosen to live in compliance with someone else's values and on their terms. So you feel a sense of inadequacy, anger, hopelessness, and she will continue to jab with disrespect and disappointment as long as you live within her frame. If you're trying to comply with her values on her terms to try to make her happy, there is no way for you. There is no you there. There is no self there. So I want to ask Cynthia about this in particular. So let's say the woman is really wanting her man to step up. Regardless, this is going to be true anyway, but let's say that this woman does have engagement. She does have some hope at that point. She does want great things between the two of you, either for herself or for you or both of you. So she wants to feel something different. She wants this to be better, right? And so why is she disrespecting and constantly jabbing? Why is that? When he's trying to solve these issues, he's trying to solve the problem, but she's constantly jabbing and disrespectful when he's working within her frame, when he's
Mm,
trying to find out, okay, what do you want? How do I solve that? How can I check the box? Is this going to make you happy?
mhm.
What is it about that that encourages a woman or enrages a woman to just be disrespectful and constantly jabbing in that situation?
Yeah, and it's extremely confusing because she'll say that she wants something and she wants you to be a certain way or do a certain thing, and that will make her happy. But really, the energy behind jabbing and even those things from the feminine that come across as disrespectful is wanting to reach out and feel your solidity, feel your power in a way that takes in this relationship dynamic, that it matters, but you're not going to be blown over by her storms. And the reason why she's pushing for that is because that actually makes her feel more safe when she gets to feel how you don't get washed away by her. And she doesn't know how to ask for that. And that's why that's very confusing, because she'll come across trying to give the answer, and that's really not what the feminine in her, the evolutionary part of her, is needing and wanting.
So what do you think that she's needing and wanting? Let's put all the barriers to the side for a second. Pains from the past and misunderstandings, let's say, or feelings of we haven't unfolded our life in the way we talked about. Let's put those all those small things to the side for a second. What is it that she's wanting underneath, really?
She's wanting to feel that you have vision and focus and a container for this relationship that she gets to be in with you. And why that matters so much in this very instinctual part of her brain is, if you can be pushed over and swayed uh, by her, then that means if the enemy comes by the cave and the other warriors from the neighboring tribe come by, you could be pushed over and swayed by them. And so again, she's wanting to know that you are, with consideration, taking in who she is, taking in her emotionality, taking in what's painful and angry, but she's wanting to know that through that you're a warrior in your own right, a warrior for her, and a warrior for the space between the two of you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. So, being a warrior is not always easy. We want to be a warrior in the world and we want her to be happy. And it circles all back around to, well, what do we value in the world? How do we want to think and speak and act? What are the hills that we are willing to die on? Because in that case, we have to have those things for a frame.
Mm-hmm.
Just to feel like that, for her to feel like there is some kind of man there, that there is some kind of energy to push against, as you've said
Mm-hmm.
before. Yeah.
And sometimes even that, often we talk here about women, like, they don't know what they want. They want something, but they don't know what they want. And often her getting to push against something is a way for her to feel herself, feel what she wants, what she doesn't want. And so being able to feel the solidity of you, the riverbank of you, is also reaching a more instinctual need of hers. It's a way she differentiates in her own self.
Yeah, thank you. So every man here, I'm open to coming in and asking questions about this or what Cynthia has said, or maybe you're in a scenario like this. Yeah, Nevin, please come on in.
Yeah. Hey guys, once again, very topical situation you presented here. I feel like I'm going through a similar, like a transition into what you're talking about. I spent so many years kind of like you said, living in her frame, and even through the separation. And now that we've started the divorce process, even up till recently, still doing that stuff. And some things have come up now regarding in a co-parent situation where it's scheduling with the kids, right? Usually she's like, oh, I have this appointment, or I have this thing, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing that. And I was always reactionary to her. Oh, okay, I'll take the kids because I'm just, she knows I love being with my kids. And so she kind of would use that as kind of her go-to. Oh, well, he'll always be there. He'll take the kids anytime I need to do this, this, and that. Well, I've started really establishing my boundary as like, I'm not going to do that anymore. I have my own stuff now. I'm working full time. I've got my activities, my life, my things that I'm doing, and I can't always be this go-to sitter for her. And it's really starting to create a lot of tension between us. We just had a call this morning where she was like, I need to bring the kids to you. She doesn't ask. She says, I need to bring the kids to you at 4 p.m. And I'm like, well, no, I mean, it's middle of my work day. I'm like, it was almost comical that she's asking me that. But, is it an emergency? Is somebody dying? Is it, I'm like, is there some major issue that like, okay, I can step in if it really is a big problem? No, she has an acupuncture appointment, nothing major, like just, and I'm like, no, I can't. Well, then, she'll use this kind of guilty, manipulative thing. Well, I'm not gonna be able to pay attention to the kids or feed them or do anything. Are you willing to have them go through this kind of suffering, and kind of use this manipulation tactic? And it like, I'm in a place now where I feel like it's breaking my heart to not, and she did it in front of the kids, by the way. And I know. I mean, I tried to stay calm through the whole thing. Towards the end, I got a little more stern in terms of my tone. How do I stay in my masculine frame when all of that's going on from her end? And I know she's trying to manipulate me now. I mean, even yesterday, she was running so late as usual for stuff to take our son to something. Oh, can you take him, please? It would make me so happy, like stuff like that. And I'm like, no, I have plans. And by the way, I spent 9 years trying to make you happy, and that didn't quite work out so well. So, so I mean, these things are coming up, and I'm trying to stay in my masculine frame without letting her actions kick me out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, let's jump in there. I'm laughing to make light of a very painful situation, which is her being completely inappropriate in front of her children, obviously. But
yeah,
let's just put that to the side for a moment.
Yeah.
There's questions on, well, what does the parenting plan say? Because some things you defer to an authority, which is the parenting plan in that instance, right? And
yeah.
if you don't have a parenting plan, then really what you're asking, okay, about masculine frame. So how do you feel that you lose frame, or where do you feel that happens?
I feel like, okay, like I feel like I'm holding it pretty strong, and I'm in it. But then once something happens where she, like when she said this stuff in front of the children, or something involves the children, or anything involving something inappropriate with the children, it fucking sets me off. I'm like, I automatically feel myself slipping into something other energy that's not where I want to be. At least I have the awareness of it, but I know it's slipping into something I don't want to be in. I don't know how to not do that, how to keep that unfuckwithable kind of energy.
Sure. Well, that's a good question. Well, let me just start with, if anyone in my life has ever tried to lead me around by the short hairs, I don't respond to that very well personally. So if someone's like intentionally manipulating me, or even an authority figure who has the right to, let's say, manipulate or guide a child, I fought against that. So as soon as she tries to, like, basically it feels like to me she's reaching out and trying to grab my heart and lead me around by my heart by whatever nasty things that she's saying or insinuating about the kids, or guilt tripping me about the kids.
Well, and using them as tokens for manipulation, which I find to be really gross, And
right. So when right. So she's obviously found that works with you. She wouldn't be doing it repeatedly if it didn't work. So the first thing is to realize, okay, this has worked on me to manipulate me in the past, and I need to stop that. I need to stop allowing this to work. Like, that's the first thing. And then I actually have a couple of slides from, I believe this was last week when we taught a masculine frame. So again, you're the protagonist of your own story. You're the protagonist within your vision. So like you said, I have my life. I have my wants now too. Confidence in your direction and purpose. So knowing what you want and saying it. No, I can't pick you up at 4 o'clock today, or can't take the kids at 4 o'clock today. And aware and in control of your emotions. And so here I'm saying aware of the fact that she can manipulate you emotionally. Yeah. So those are the first steps. So with what I just said, you're the protagonist of your story as you framed it today, Nevin. Right? Confidence in knowing what you want. And it sounds like basically being aware that it can pull your heartstrings, being aware that it can manipulate you. So that's how you keep your frame, is you don't allow that to manipulate you. Now that might be easier said than done, but take us from there.
Yeah. So when I had, like today, I had the awareness that she was doing this, right? So it's like probably one of the first times, aside from the comment yesterday, which was pretty blatant. The one today was, I said no, but inside my heart, I was little bit heartbreaking because I know
Sure.
that now the other option is that my kids are now going to sit in an acupuncturist office for 90 minutes, twiddling their thumbs, losing their shit. And I felt really bad, about that. Even though I know it's her making that choice, right? She's the one making the choice to do that. And I said to her, I'm like, you're making this choice to do this. I'm not the one that made this appointment at this time. Our parenting plan was that generally speaking, she usually picks up the kids from school because she has a very flexible schedule during the day and I do not. But yeah, I still feel guilty about it. And that to me is the part that I need to kind of maybe get over. I feel shameful and guilty that I didn't step in and
Yeah.
save my kids from this horrible afternoon they're going to have with their mother.
Right. Right. I'm just going to be man to man direct. Yeah, you do got to get over that guilty feeling of they're going to be in some fucking posh acupuncture office bothering them for 90 minutes. I'm sure they're going to be just, like we're not talking about on the street or something. So
yeah, no, I know.
there's not a real safety issue here. Right.
Yeah.
And this is called a natural consequence, right? She booked acupuncture at 4:00. You're not available. The natural consequences, she needs to figure it out, like take care of the kids or they're going to be loud or whatever. And you can't control any of that stuff. And you wouldn't be able to if the two of you were still together anyway.
Exactly. No, exactly. Yeah. And she chose this, she's the one that initiated this whole, thing. And it's like, well, now we're single parents and these are challenges that are going to come up. I'm not going to be your go-to nanny all the time. Right. That's not it anymore. That's not the dynamic.
Slam dunk, dude. 360 dunk contest right there. Yeah. And let me say one other thing. I'm going to call on Chris. Thanks for being patient, Chris. And certainly if you have anything, have you jump in a minute. The natural pressure another person feels by the unfolding of life is not your responsibility. So the natural pressure that she has now as a single mother, as you said, is not your responsibility. And she's attempting to use your good nature against you and your fatherly love for your children against you. So she'll continue to do it as long as it works. Right? So
yeah, no, she will. She will. I'm just having this realization the past few days of this about how much I've been manipulated with my children and my love for them is it's been a lot. It's kind of heavy, so that's been.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Thanks for bringing it here. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
This is the right place. Yeah. Thanks, Nevin. Chris, please come on in.
Yeah, man. I just want to side with Nevin. I was where you were. I think we're very similar. I work from home. I pretty much raised my daughter. So, when we split up, it was very similar. But for me, what really worked was I was really adamant at the beginning of my days. I was like, this is my time and I don't care, because she wanted me to follow her. She's a nurse and she wanted me to continue following her schedule 4 on 5 off. And I said, no, I've been doing this my whole life. It's hard for me to get work done. I can't schedule my own routine. And I said, I need days a week just for me. And so I was really adamant and clear. And she dragged my daughter, I know, to hair appointments and dye appointments. And, and I just, I wasn't great for my daughter, but, I just made my time with my daughter super awesome. And now it's, she knows my time and I do. Now I'm a little bit more open to helping, but I only do it for my daughter. Like my wife, just recently, my daughter was going to Girl Guide camp and she couldn't leave work. And I said, yeah, my daughter really wanted to go. So I volunteered to do that, but it's my choice. Right. And so it's from a different space because sometimes she's like, hey, can you watch her this Tuesday? I'm like, no, it's not my day. I play hockey that day. So, but it was really in the beginning, it was hard, but I was really adamant about my time. My time was my time.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Yeah, no, I'm learning. That's a learning curve for me that I'm on right now. So,
but I've been there and just hold fast to I have a 2 days, 5 days cycle, and I was adamant about sticking to that.
Yeah, right now we're every other day, so it's been pretty mixed up. So
yeah.
We might have to renegotiate that and see what's up.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Good stuff. Appreciate it. Yeah, Dan, come on in.
Yeah, like Devin, I love this topic. It's actually very topical for me right now with some things I'm going through. But a suggestion I was going to throw out there, and Devin, I don't know if this would work for you or not, or maybe for other men who are dealing with a similar situation. But I found getting away from verbal communication and strictly staying with text communication has been really helpful. In fact, the court has required us to use an app called Our Family Wizard and it contains like a family calendar in there, so we can put in dates for different events, who's going to be picking up, dropping off kids, and there's a chat or messaging feature in there as well. And it's amazing how the behavior changes when you're forced to write textually instead of speaking verbally. A lot of the name calling and other behavior that was going on is kind of died off now, and it's a little bit more business oriented via the chat or text feature. Although she tried yesterday. She sent me a text, talk right now, and I have no interest in talking to her.
I need to be better about the not talking thing for sure. At least for now.
Yeah, Nevin, the standing up for ourselves is a practice, right? Like it feels so bad inside at first, like we're doing something wrong, like we're the child that stole cookies out of the cookie jar or something. Aaron, come on in, please. Thanks for raising your hand.
So in my case, it is still, I think, a huge topic. I've gone through 2 years probably of therapy to really understand the level of manipulation my wife has. And during separation, it was the therapist was telling me, right, that this thing existed, right, between us, and it was to some degree holding us together, right? This was the glue that was holding us, right? This manipulation that was happening, and I never realized it until probably, I don't know, 6 months ago, the level that it had, right, on the relationship. I personally used it as a mechanism to continue the relationship because she wanted to separate, but she was asking for everything, right? Everything. It was like she wanted to be the ex-wife, but she wanted all the wife benefits, right? So it was, and this manipulation, she was using it in all levels, at all levels, right? Crying, being mad. I mean, it was huge, and I couldn't separate what was real and what was not real, right? I was firm on certain things for the family, but at the same time she was using it a lot. So it was I was a container, but it was also happening. It was kind of weird how during the separation everything happened. I was being the container, but this was also happening at the same time. It was very difficult for me, very tiring as it was happening, right? And we got back into the relationship, and I continued working on the topic, and the therapist just became more aware and putting the examples out there of how this was occurring until it became a reality. And even I even had a dream. I went through my own grief period of understanding who this person is, right, and how complex this was in the dynamic. And now I'm in a position where I don't engage. I detect. I'm detecting a lot the feelings of what's happening, and that's guided me a lot. Oh, this is manipulation. Oh, this is real, right? This is manipulation. It's an exercise I'm still going through, because she's very skilled of doing this, right? She's like very skilled. I mean, it's hard sometimes to understand the level of her skills at this, but I think she's starting to realize that it's not working. So I'm going step by step, and it's been a learning lesson for me. It's been hard, but it's definitely on the right path. I'm better today than I was 2 years ago.
Yeah, phenomenal, Aaron. And I want to ask you a question here in a second. What you just mentioned reminds me of, if I'm coming from my own self, I'm starting in the same place every day. And that's consistent. Who I am, what I want, it is consistent, whether we're aware of it or not, whether we flush this out or not. That's a part of this work in coaching, right? Is starting your day from who you are every single day, consistently with you, calm, clear. You know what your values are. You know what your expectations are. You know what you can control. So you're always starting from the same place. Before doing this work, it's often like trying to guess the lottery numbers of the day. You know, there's a million different variables, and trying to gauge is she manipulating me? Is she not manipulating? Is she happy today? Is she on her period today? Did some tragedy happen? There's some perceived tragedy happen that she needs to take her kids to acupuncture, and they're going to be bored and be starving on the street or something. So there's this perceived trying to live our life in her frame of guessing all the lottery numbers of the day is really impossible, and it doesn't help in the first place. Why is that actually not what a woman wants? She may say, I want you to read my mind and know every whim that I want. Okay, let me start my day off of trying to guess the lottery. Hi, good morning. Let me guess what's going on with you today. I'm constantly analyzing. Why is that not actually what a woman wants?
Yeah, even just hearing the energy of that, I feel like the feminine energy in me get a little ungrounded. And I think it goes back to this idea of solidness and what the feminine makes of that in terms of that she is, safe on an evolutionary basis. And when, despite what she's asking, when she's looking to have you like meet all the different cards, when she feels in you that you can be moved and are gauging yourself by her, it will feel ungrounding, and on a very subtle place, it will feel unsafe to her just on an evolutionary basis. And then she can react if she feels that you are following her with a little bit of anger, because in her brain, she's been thinking, this is what I really want, but this doesn't feel good. And then you might have even extra layers of her trying to manipulate and control, because she's looking for that. Everything's going to be okay, deep down inside of her. So you're hearing a voice that comes from miles deep and really isn't based on what's currently going on in the situation.
Yeah, thank you. So Aaron, I have compassion for your wife. This is a habit that she's practiced her whole life, right? So she doesn't know any differently. And now it sounds like she's kind of being forced to learn something differently because you are more solid in how you think and speak and act and your own values and such. Is that fair to say, Aaron, that you're on that journey of solidifying yourself?
Yes, definitely. It's been a huge journey. It's incredible the level of manipulation that she can achieve. I am impressed. I'm really impressed. It's wow.
Yeah.
And she's lived her life with that, right? I think to some degree she was raised by her parents to that level. So
and to be clear, I'm not saying that she's an evil person using manipulation. It's the strategy and habit that she has, right? Like any of us when we're young, like any animal that needs to be fed, it's going to use manipulation. But you're aware of it now and not judging her as a bad person, but starting from you every day, not starting from what are the daily lottery numbers. Like you're nodding your head this whole time.
Yeah. So one of the things that I also learned is that my 2 daughters and one of my kids are expert at this also, right? Mm-hmm. And now it's like I have a full house of individuals with this level of manipulation. I was like, wow, I was thinking that it's just big. It's big. So
it's forcing you to grow in a lot of kingly wisdom, honestly. Right, Aaron? Yeah. Good stuff. Thanks for being here. Thanks for jumping in. Sure. Yeah, Mike, please come on in.
Yeah. So I definitely feel like I'm getting away from the B scenario there. And I do think that she wants me to step up. And I think mostly it's because of the work I've done. I've become more grounded. I've become less reactive. I've become more empathetic with her emotions and her actions, and also just creating some boundaries, which isn't easy, because I like Nevin, went through the same thing. I started spending more time with the kids. I started neglecting my work. I started, doing the things that make her happy and make her get ahead in her career and her needs, but by sacrificing my own and making me miserable as a result. So, my question is how do you, when you're kind of in that sort of middle ground, how do you get away from that? Do you just continue? Is it time? And then also it's, I think a part of me is, one of the things is that unconditional regard that so many of these guys talk about. And it's hard when somebody has hurt you and cheated on you and, continues to hide things from you and not give you that sort of, here's what I'm doing and here's the full, things that are going on, and just keeping it from you. And part of me thinks maybe it's a way she just doesn't want to upset me, but on the other hand, it makes me think, oh, she's just using me or So how do you kind of deal with that?
Sure. So, those are deep questions. Those are great questions. Those are deep questions. A couple of different ones. The first one sounded like your personal work, if you will. And the second part of the question was more of, how do I deal with my, let's say, lack of trust, or her lack of openness, or our lack of connection and depth together? Help me understand your question a little bit better.
So, there's, as far as the second part of the question, you mean?
Those are two really different kind of questions. So which?
Yeah. So the first
you
question
reframe-
is I think by the work that I've been doing, I feel like I am definitely stepping up as a person, as an individual, as a man. But I still feel like that she kind of doesn't want to have many things to do with me. She's, for instance, she used to be really caring about my work and my goals and my accomplishments, and now she just like doesn't care about it, asking me about those things, and doesn't ask me about it. So I feel like there's still that sort of pushback from her. So how do I just continue doing what I'm doing? Like, what do I do in that?
Good. Yeah. Let's start there. That's good. Not to, argue over semantics, but she's not giving you pushback. She just doesn't care. Right. Like that's basically the case.
Yeah. Sounds like it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because pushback's different than someone just being apathetic. Right.
True. Yeah.
I just want to be clear, because there's an importance there. If she's pushing back on me, I kind of victimize myself. But if she's just doesn't care, then I'm free to see this how I want to see this. And that would lead into and with our time, and I want to get to the second part of your question. So the lead in is, okay, the despair that I feel that my wife basically doesn't care about me, I'm generalizing, but basically doesn't care about me, is incredibly painful. So I look at the reality, the truth of that first, right? A la Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. There's only so many things that you can control. And the one thing that no one can take away from you is your choice on the perspective of your current experience. So Viktor Frankl, even being in the concentration camps, he said, our lives are not wasted because the world will now see that evil cannot continue to be allowed to exist. So even in our suffering and despair and death, it does serve a purpose. And he had that perspective. He had that, let's say, joy within his own self. But he still has meaning because he chooses that to be the meaning. So we can choose the meaning of this despair that you're going through. That's the first part, really, to answer your. So the direct answer is keep doing what you're doing. You can't, you're running a race. You don't look over your shoulder. You just run your race. That's the short answer. But the second part of your question, if you could repeat that for us.
Well, I feel like there's still connection that she has with her emotional affair partner, and so that I always try to I figure, I can't control her actions, and she knows where I stand on that, what my boundaries are on that. But I know that she claims that she wants to reconcile and she wants to make things better, but yet there's things that are still going on behind my back that I'm aware of. And do I just approach her on that, and how do I approach her on that, or do I just continue? I don't want to just ignore it, right?
Totally. Yeah, I wouldn't ignore it. So I'm chuckling because it's not going to be a very fun Saturday morning coffee, but this is how I talk about it. So my Saturday morning coffee is, we get together every so often, maybe once a month, and talk about relationship stuff. And it doesn't have to be stuffy and scheduled like that, but it could be. Right? And so if I were you, point being, Saturday morning, maybe before the kids get up or something like this, when the kids aren't around, I would go to her and say, hey, I know that this is going on. I'd like for you to talk with me about that. Or I'd like for you to tell me about that, for instance. Usually she's going to deny. That's usually what happens. And then I would say, well, I know this is going on and this is not okay with me. That's the gist to your answer. That's the gist to your question. That's my answer. Is anything that is not okay with you, you have to say something. Within 7 days is my rule, 24/7 rule. Wait 24 hours, sleep on it, bring it here to us, journal about it. But then you have to bring it up within 7 days so that you don't just sit on it and kind of defy your own self, like violate your own sense of value if you just sit on it and don't say anything. If you wait,
I think that because the situation she's in with him is she works with his company, and it's kind of part of their job now, and sort of she got into this mess and now she can't get out of it for her work's sake. But I mean, how do you it's like you're going to see this person, you're always going to have those feelings. I mean, some people move to different cities just to get away from, if they want to, make things better and reconcile. So, it's like, it's, I guess, yeah, I don't know.
Well, it comes out, yeah, what you don't know is really where your line is what I'm hearing. Like, if it isn't okay, she still work with this guy, that's it. Like, I don't give a shit about all that other stuff. Oh, she can't, and she put herself there in the business and whatever. If that's your deal breaker, it's a deal breaker. I don't care.
Right.
If it's not, then it's not. But it sounds like it is.
Yeah.
And if it's not, what does that mean? Like, what is a deal breaker for me? There has to be one.
Yeah.
I think that's what the painful part is if she's not willing to step towards you, and she's not willing to respect your deal breaker, then what does that mean?
Yeah.
That's the scary part. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Mike. Good for you. If my deal breaker can move, it's not really a deal breaker. And what does that feel like for a woman in a relationship?
Yeah. And again, I know that it's a very nuanced situation. However, if she does feel like your deal breaker can move, she'll never feel a sense of your riverbanks or where there is boundary. So it's almost like, she's standing on the rock cliff and the wind's blowing, and she could just like stay there in the wind, or she could dive off, or she could fly to the right or fly to the left or lie down. And that in itself, even though she might verbally say that's how she's willing to be in relationship, or that's what makes her feel free, or anything opposite to that is controlling, it really unsettles a woman to feel that boundaries move in your part, and she will not respect you as a man, and she will not respect the space of relationship. And it actually collapses her core feminine energy, because she'll basically be looking for where her own masculine anchors are, because she can't feel it outside of herself.
Yeah, that's the experience that she goes through and I've been there, guys. Like, I've been in the spot thinking, I'm never going to have that conflict in my life. I'm never going to have that type of incredibly painful, difficult Gordian knot of a conversation. Yeah, we are, right. And we have to know where we come from.
So essentially it comes down to, it's either him or me.
Well, what do you want? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. I talk to guys all the time where the woman has suggested, let's say, opening the relationship. And because we've been so attached and codependent unknowingly, that men actually consider that like as an option to, that's a conversation for another time. It's so painful. And this wraps into, we need to be aware for being manipulated. We need to have a community of men to come to and professionals to bounce these things off of, so we can get an idea of really what's valuable for us and what our values are. And let me leave you with this today. There's power in disconnection. Separate yourself from the world for a while, and soon you'll figure out what's feeding your soul, what's just entertaining your ego, and what's nothing but a distraction. Allow yourself to elevate. Once it says we allow ourselves to elevate once we isolate ourselves. So if I just take off the last sentence there, because to me, I could debate that, but disconnection from what? Well, we have to know what's feeding our soul, what's just entertaining our ego, which is fine, and what's really nothing but a distraction. If we don't know the direction we really want to go in our life, then she can't feel that there's any stability or adventure or container there. So if we don't know what's feeding our soul, that's just painful for everyone in our life. Honestly, our children, everyone around us. And if we know what's just for our ego, you're going to watch Netflix, like, great, cool. Do that intentfully though. But if you're just mindlessly autopilot in life, if you're mindlessly working 80 hours a week, which I've done, or if you're mindlessly just binging Netflix, then that's a problem. So knowing where you stand is so important. That's what I love about these calls with you guys. Bring your stuff here, writing in your journal, even though they're painful events that you would have hoped to never have to face. Appreciate you guys being here. Cynthia, thank you so much.